After the smash hit that was the original Ben 10, Cartoon Network wanted more and they wanted it now. And they managed to do this by getting the late and great Dwayne McDuffie to come on to help redesign Ben 10 to be a little darker with an overarching story. With 10 new aliens and a time skip, Alien Force being both different and similar to the original, so a game was in order. However, when making this, it appears they took inspiration from Protector of Earth, so if there's any comparisons, it's for a reason. Personally, I consider the first two seasons of Alien Force, which this game is based on, to be the absolute peak of Ben 10. But that isn't something to talk about here, since this is a review based on the game based on those first two seasons. So with that, let's jump right into the plot. The plot is a lot more involved in Protector of Earth, but that doesn't mean it's a good story. The story starts with our main trio, Ben, Gwen, and Kevin driving off to the pier for some reason. I guess it's a date between Gwen and Kevin. When Kevin gets an alert stating some kind of alien tech is close to the pier, Ben splits off after them and making his way through the pier finds a Tetraman called Gorvan. Gorvan explains he's a plumber who's been collecting different pieces of alien tech as he's been instructed to by the plumbers. He then explains he needs some tech from the Forever Knights who were at the pier trying to get this tech to begin with. Ben and Kevin go retrieve it, get back to the base, where Ben and Gwen go to Volcanus to get a different piece of tech. Upon return to their base, they go to a hatchery where they fight some DNA aliens and get another piece of equipment and return with it. However, after unlocking Max's secret files, the trio discover that Gorvan is a discharged plumber and not to be trusted. Kevin rushes straight in and Ben falls not too far behind. However, when he finds Kevin, he finds that Kevin has been partially transformed into a DNA alien. And after fighting him off and turning him back to normal, Ben finds Gorvan, manages to defeat him and lock him in a cell to never be talked about again for the rest of the game. However, a hybrid breaks in and steals the components before leaving. Using Kevin's alien tech tracker, they're able to find out where it goes. They split up and Ben goes to a control ship. He tries to shut it down, accidentally activates 3 super weather towers, barely making it out of the crashing ship. And he manages to meet up with Gwen and Kevin, who have taken down the force fields protecting the weather control towers. Ben uses a full-sized Humongousaur and destroys the weather tower. And with all the weather towers fall, the control room is destroyed and the trio go home to get some smoothies. The plans for the hyperspace jump gate from the season 2 finale still lingering on the monitor as we cut to credits. Okay, so I have a few issues with this story. Once Gorvan is defeated, he's completely dropped from the plot and never brought up again until like Omniverse. Which I'm still surprised they brought him back for. Gorvan acts like the most suspicious person to ever exist, and nobody notices until basically the level where the trio finds out, which that doesn't seem like Alien Force, Ben, Gwen. Okay, maybe Kevin. Another thing is that, is this game canon? Because it's like, it tries its damnedest to be, but small little details like Grandpa Max still being missing, but still having files and go, make this game not really able to fit into the canon. It's confusing, and this game, and the story feels like an excuse to have the characters go to missions rather than an excuse for characters to, and the story feels like an excuse for the characters to go on separate missions instead of keeping them together, because there's always some missions where Ben splits off from the group, which A, makes no sense because this is still Alien Force with the trio basically together all the time, and B, it's clearly just an excuse so Ben can be on his own, which doesn't work with how goddamn long the levels are. But to get into that, we'll have to discuss the gameplay. I can say with complete honesty that the gameplay isn't as good as Protector of Earth. That isn't to insult the game or anything, it's just insulting the game. So we have the same limitations of Protector of Earth with the time limit, only having 5 aliens, and the issue with that is only 1 or 2 of them actually play well. Because Big Chill gets outclassed very quickly. Humongousaur is introduced so goddamn late it makes me wonder what they were thinking. Swampfly is pretty good. Jetray is faster than my go-to. And Spider Monkey just kinda exists. Honestly, Jetray quickly became the cannonball of this game for me. Another issue with the gameplay is that Gwen and Kevin are playable this time. The issue being that one is so much better than the other. Kevin is slow, clunky, his combats don't feel like they hit, his special moves don't mean shit. Meanwhile, you got Gwen over there just being an absolute beast with her mana and karate, managing to save her side of the gameplay as well as it just generally being more fun than touch this piece of material, go over here and do this thing. You know? However, what I do like about both of these is that unlike Ben, who once he's either died or timed out, he reverts back to human. Once they time out with their pals, being Gwen's Mana Shield and Kevin's Absorption, they don't have a chance to instantly regain all their health, so there's that little bit of risk and reward, but I mean, it's not much. Doesn't help that the levels go on for like 45, 50 minutes at a time. And no, it isn't because Gwen and Kevin are playable this time, because they're only playable in 2 levels each. One of those levels having both of them playable. So that means, well, there's only 3 levels where you can play somebody who isn't Ben? It's ridiculous. And I think the biggest reason for this is that this game focuses a lot more on the combat than the fun platforming of the first game. It doesn't have that good balance, and because of that, everybody suffers for it. And it doesn't help that in this combat-focused game, there's only like 5 different types of enemies you can fight, being the Forever Knights, the Pickaxe Aliens, DN Aliens, Pyronite DN Aliens, and Vulpamancer DN Aliens. There's a few others, but they're so small and insignificant, they don't actually count as enemies. But, you know, throwing this in here at the last minute, but I also want to throw in this glitch that I found on my PSP version of the game. This always happens on the PSP version for some reason. I don't know why. I have to reset the level before anything can happen. Don't ask me how, but it happens. It fucking happened again.
Let's get this show off the road.
It happened again, motherfuck. What the fuck? Go do this shit over again, are you? Presentation-wise, this game is just a massive step down for Protector of Earth. While the art style is trying to replicate the style of Alien Force, it just doesn't work. For starters, look at Gwen's neck. It's long. And don't forget about this just barren sand. I mean, I guess it's accurate to Alien Force, but, you know, I can still see things, so I don't think it's accurate enough. And it isn't because of the power of the systems, because this is on the Wii. The same system that had Protector of Earth on it. In fact, I'm playing it on the same Wii as Protector of Earth. And the same, not the same PSP, we'll get into that later. Overall, the game doesn't look terrible, but it could do so much better. As for the music, what music? I can't remember a single thing about it. And that's not a good sign. Protector of Earth had an amazing soundtrack, one that felt right like it came straight out of the show. Before we move on to the console differences. Omphar and Humongous are in both versions of the game. The console versions get Spider Monkey and get both flying aliens, Big Chill and Spider Monkey. Well, the DS version got Chromosome Group and Echo Echo. I kinda wanna play as them more now. And nobody gets Brainstorm, because fuck Brainstorm. You don't like Brainstorm. If you do, no you don't. This is the worst the Alien exclusivity ever does get, but it still continues to go on after this, and I kinda get it, but I still don't like the idea. So with all this in mind, is this a good game? I can't say it is. It's a mediocre game, and that's the worst kind of game that there is, because you remember a bad game, but you won't remember a boring game. Compared to everything else that keeps me coming back to Protector of Earth, this game just has nothing. The story is more involved, but it's a mess. It drops way too many things, constantly switches focus, and is just excuses for the characters to be separated all the time. Whereas with Protector of Earth, since there wasn't any multiple playable characters and it was based in the original series, they didn't need to really give excuses for why only Ben is playable. But I guess that's how it is when they're making a sequel. What, 1 year later? Okay, we need to talk about this before I move on. This game was made by a studio known as Monkey Bar Games. And the reason I bring this up is because they made 2 other Ben 10 games, Galactic Racing and Omniverse 1. And I can say with full honesty that with those games in mind, it feels like they don't get Ben 10. Because it's like, you know, that can wait for those reviews. But until then, we can't really do Rise of Hex since it's been delisted for way too goddamn long. So, next time I'll be playing through Ben 10 Alien Force Vilgax Attacks. The first Ben 10 game that really shook up the formula from the Protector of Earth and even the Hyperscan game, if we're going that far back. But until then, take care. Bye!